I was 8 years old when my life was left behind on a plastic stadium seat in Los Angeles. My name is Lily Monroe. Back then, I believed my mother was my safe place. Her name was Donna Monroe. She held my hand tightly as we walked toward the football stadium. The ground shook from cheering. Lights flashed everywhere like stars falling to earth. "Mom, it's so loud," I said. She squeezed my hand harder. "Just stay with me. Don't let go," I trusted her. Children always do. We sat high above the field. People shouted. Music blasted. I smiled because she was smiling too. At halftime, she stood up fast. "I'm going to the restroom," she said. "Don't move," I nodded. I stayed still. Minutes passed, then more. The seats around me filled again. The match started again. People screamed and clapped. My mom didn't come back. I climbed onto the seat and looked over the crowd. So many faces, none of them hers. "Mom," I whispered. No answer. I waited. My legs went numb. My stomach hurt. I waited until the lights felt too bright and the noise felt too heavy. A security guard found me crying quietly. "Where's your family?" he asked. "I don't know," I said. That was the truth. That night I slept on a bench behind the stadium. A thin blanket, a buzzing light. They called my mother again and again. Her phone rang. Then went silent. No one came. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. No missing report. No panic. No searching. It was like she planned it. I went into foster care. Different homes. Different rules. Some were kind. Some were cruel, but none were my mother. Every night I asked myself the same question. Why that night? Why that place? Why me? At 10 years old I stopped crying. At 12 I stopped hoping. At 15 I stopped needing anyone. Pain taught me how to be quiet. Silence taught me how to listen. I grew up watching people lie, watching people leave. By 20 I promised myself something I never said out loud. If I ever saw her again, she would have to look at me. Years passed. I built my life piece by piece. School, work, long nights. I didn't become rich, I became sharp. One night while working late, an email appeared. No name, no message, just a photo. A woman stepping out of a black SUV. Expensive dress, diamond bracelet. My heart stopped. It was her, older, perfect, untouched. My mother had a new life. Below the photo was one sentence. "She left you because you were in the way." I stared at the screen for a long time. If you're still listening, subscribe, because what I found next turned this from a sad story into a revenge story no one expected. I didn't cry, I smiled. Because now I finally knew the truth. She didn't lose me. She chose to leave me. And that meant one thing. She made a mistake. Because the little girl she abandoned grew up. And I was about to walk back into her life, not as her daughter, but as her consequence. I didn't rush into her life. Revenge is slow when it is done right. After seeing that photo, I spent weeks doing nothing but watching. Watching her moves, watching her patterns, learning her new name. Donna Monroe was gone. Now the world knew her as Veronica Hale. New name, new face, new life. She lived in a quiet, rich neighborhood near Los Angeles. Big houses, high gates, fake smiles. She owned a charity. People loved her. They called her kind. They called her brave. Every time I read those words, my chest burned. I started with the past. The night she left me, I went back to the stadium. Same seats, same lights, different people. An old security officer still worked there. Gray hair, slow steps. I showed him my foster papers, my name, the date. His face changed. "I remember you," he said softly. "You waited all night." My hands shook. "Did she come back?" I asked. He shook his head. "But someone else did." My heart stopped. "Who?" "A man," he said. "Well-dressed, calm, not worried at all." I felt cold. "He talked to your mother near the exit," the officer continued. "They argued," she cried. "Then she left with him." I couldn't breathe. "She didn't go to the restroom," I whispered. "No," he said. "She walked out like she was done." That night wasn't an accident, it was a deal. I searched harder. Old phone records, old court files. Then I found him, Mark Hale, a businessman, rich, powerful, married to Veronica Hale. My mother didn't leave me for nothing. She left me for a man. I sat on my bed staring at the wall for a long time. 8 years old. Alone, cold. And she was choosing a better life. If you're still listening, subscribe, because this is where the revenge truly begins, not loud, not fast, but quiet and painful. I didn't go to her house. Not yet. I went to her charity. I volunteered. Different name, different hair, different clothes. She didn't recognize me. That hurt more than I expected. She smiled at me kindly. "Thank you for helping," she said. Her voice was the same. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled back. I watched how people treated her like a hero. How she spoke about abandoned children on stage. Every word felt like a knife. One day, she told her story publicly. I had to make a hard choice long ago, she said. I gave up everything for love. The crowd clapped. I felt sick. That night I followed her. I watched her laugh with friends, drink expensive wine, live freely. She never once looked back. That's when I understood something important. She didn't regret leaving me, she regretted being poor. I began my plan. Slow steps, careful steps. I became useful, trusted, important. I learned where money moved. Who signed what? Who hid what? Her charity wasn't clean, it was a mask. Money disappeared, records were fake. I saved everything, every file, every number. One evening she called me into her office. You're very smart, she said. You remind me of someone. My heart pounded. Who? I asked. She paused. Myself, she said. I almost laughed. If only she knew. I went home that night and opened an old box. Inside was the only thing I kept from my childhood, a faded ticket from that football match, the night she chose her future. I held it tightly. Soon she would have to face her past. And this time I wouldn't be the one waiting. I would be the one watching her world fall apart, quietly, piece by piece. I knew the truth now, but truth alone is not revenge. Truth needs timing. I stayed close to her, close enough to hear her lies, close enough to smell her fear before it showed. At the charity office, people trusted me. They gave me access, passwords, files. They saw a quiet young woman who worked hard and asked nothing. They didn't see the 8-year-old girl still sitting in a stadium, waiting. One evening, Veronica invited a few donors to her house. Big event, big money. She asked me to help prepare. That's when I saw everything. Hidden drawers, locked cabinets, private files. I photographed it all, every illegal transfer, every fake signature. She smiled that night, raising her glass. To helping children, she said. I almost choked. Later, when everyone left, she stood beside me. You know, she said softly, sometimes you must leave something behind to survive. I looked at her face. So calm, so sure. Yes, I said. Some things never leave you. She didn't understand. Not yet. If you're still watching this story, subscribe because from here on, every step brings her closer to the truth she tried to bury. A week later, I made my first move. Small, invisible, a document went missing, just one. She panicked. I saw it in her eyes, the way her hands shook. Did you see this file? She asked me. No, I said gently. Should I have? She nodded slowly, but her smile was gone. That night she called Mark. I listened from the hallway. If this gets out, everything is finished, she whispered. Everything. Not just the charity, not just the money, her reputation. Her new life. I went home and opened a fresh folder on my laptop. I named it, The Night. Inside I placed everything. The stadium record, the security report, the foster papers, the missing person gap. The truth was clear. She didn't report me missing because Mark told her not to. A child would ruin his image, and she agreed. That realization hurt more than all the years alone. She didn't choose love over me. She chose comfort. I waited. Revenge needs patience. Then something unexpected happened. She started trusting me more. She told me stories about her fear, about her past. I had a daughter once, she said one evening, staring into her wine. She would be your age now. My chest tightened. What happened? I asked. She shrugged. She disappeared. Just like that, disappeared. No pain, no regret. That was the moment I stopped seeing her as my mother. She was just a woman who made a choice. And choices have consequences. I sent an anonymous message to a journalist. Not the files, not yet, just a question. Have you ever investigated Veronica Hale's charity? The reply came fast. No, but we should. The game had started. A few days later, I visited the stadium again. I sat in the same seat. I closed my eyes. I wasn't waiting anymore. I was remembering. When I opened them, I felt strong. That night, Veronica called me. Her voice was shaking. Someone is asking questions, she said. I don't know who to trust. I smiled into the phone. You can trust me, I said. And she did. That was her biggest mistake. Because the closer she pulled me in, the deeper, she dug her own ending. The questions around her grew louder, but I stayed quiet. Quiet people scare the most. Veronica stopped sleeping well. I could see it in her eyes, dark circles, short breaths. She checked her phone every few minutes. She locked doors twice. She trusted no one, except me. One afternoon, she asked me to drive with her, just us. Her hands trembled on the steering wheel. I feel like someone is watching me, she said. I looked straight ahead. Maybe it's stress, I replied. She laughed nervously. Yes, maybe. She didn't know the truth. I wasn't watching her. I was waiting. The journalist called me 2 days later. Anonymous messages lead to curious people. I need proof, he said. Real proof. You'll get it, I answered, but not yet. That same week, the charity planned a big fundraiser. Cameras, donors, speeches, perfect timing. I prepared everything carefully. Backups, clouds, copies. Nothing could disappear now. On the night of the event, Veronica stood on stage. Elegant, confident. She spoke about children, about loss, about sacrifice. People cried. I stood in the back, invisible. When applause filled the room, I felt something strange. Peace. If you're still listening, subscribe because what happens next turns silence into justice. The next morning, headlines started to appear, small ones at first. Questions raised about charity finances. Veronica called me immediately. Do you know anything about this? She asked. No, I said calmly, but it sounds serious. Her breathing became heavy. They're asking for records, she whispered. All of them? Then give them, I said. You have nothing to hide, right? There was a long pause. That pause told me everything. That night she drank too much wine. She called me to her house. I trusted you, she said suddenly. Why do I feel like I've known you forever? I sat across from her, close enough to see fear behind her eyes. Maybe because some people stay with us, I said. Even when we leave them, she frowned. What do you mean? I stood up. My heart was calm, my voice steady. Do you remember a football stadium? I asked. In Los Angeles, her face went white. Do you remember a little girl? I continued. 8 years old, brown jacket. Red shoes. She dropped her glass, it shattered. Stop, she whispered. You told the world your daughter disappeared, I said, but you know the truth. Tears filled her eyes. Lily, she said weakly. I shook my head. That name belongs to a child you abandoned, I replied. She didn't survive that night. She reached for me, I stepped back. You didn't just leave me, I said. You erased me. She cried, begged, collapsed, but it was too late. The journalist published everything the next morning. Bank records, lies, connections. Mark Hale's name appeared everywhere. Investigations began, sponsors pulled out. Friends vanished. Veronica was alone, just like I had been. I watched the news quietly from my apartment. For the first time in my life, I felt equal, not powerful. Equal. That night, she sent me one last message. I'm sorry. I stared at the screen for a long time, then I deleted it. Because sorry doesn't fix 8 years of silence. And this story wasn't over yet. Her world was falling. But the final truth had not been spoken. The world didn't end for her in one day. It ended slowly. The same way mine once did. Veronica stopped answering calls. Her charity office closed. Her name disappeared from websites. Mark Hale tried to run. Money moved fast. Lawyers moved faster. I stayed quiet. Silence had always been my strongest weapon. Every morning, news alerts filled my phone. Investigations, audits, court dates. People who once praised her now blamed her. The same mouths that called her a hero now called her a fraud. I watched it all from a distance. Not smiling, not crying, just watching. One evening, a letter arrived at my apartment. No return address. I already knew who it was from. Inside was a single page. Handwritten. I know I don't deserve your time. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But please, let me explain. I folded the letter slowly. Explanations are for people who still have choices. She didn't. Still, curiosity pulled me forward. I agreed to meet her. One last time. A quiet cafe, no cameras, no names. She arrived early. Smaller, older. Her hands shook as she held her cup. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. You look just like your father, she whispered. I sat down calmly. You didn't come here to talk about him, I said. You came here to feel better. She broke down. I was scared, she said. I was poor, alone. He promised me everything. I listened. I thought someone else would take care of you, she cried. I leaned forward. You didn't think, I said softly. You chose. Her face collapsed. If I could go back, she started. You wouldn't, I said, because going back would cost you comfort. She stared at me in silence. If you're still listening, subscribe, because this part isn't about anger anymore, it's about truth. I waited for you, I continued. All night I waited. Her hands covered her mouth. 8 years old, I said. No phone, no money. No one. I'm sorry, she whispered again. I know, I replied, and that's why this hurts you now. She reached across the table. I lost everything, she said. Mark left, the house is gone, I'm nothing. I pulled my hand away. Now you understand, I said. This is what nothing feels like. She looked at me like she was seeing herself for the first time. I don't hate you, I said. Hate needs energy. I used mine to survive. She nodded slowly. Why are you really here? She asked. I stood up. To make sure you know, I said, that I didn't win because I destroyed you. I leaned closer. I won because I became someone you can never hurt again. I left money on the table. Not for her, for closure. Outside, the air felt lighter. For the first time, I wasn't carrying that stadium seat with me, but fate wasn't finished yet. 2 days later, Mark Hale was arrested. Fraud, conspiracy, obstruction. Veronica was called to testify. Her story would finally be told. Publicly, truth doesn't whisper forever, it eventually screams. I watched the trial online. No face shown, no name mentioned, just facts. When it was over, I closed my laptop. I wasn't cheering, I was done. That night I dreamed of the stadium again, but this time I stood up and walked out on my own. One part remained, the final one. Because revenge isn't complete until peace replaces pain. The trial ended on a quiet Tuesday morning. No crowds, no shouting, just a judge reading the truth out loud. Veronica sat still as the words fell on her like stones. Fraud, conspiracy, neglect. When the judge spoke about the abandoned child, she closed her eyes. I watched from my apartment. Alone. Calm. For the first time, the story wasn't living inside me anymore. It was out in the open, where it belonged. After the trial, people tried to find me. Journalists, lawyers, strangers who suddenly cared. I said nothing. Some stories don't need faces. They need lessons. I moved away from Los Angeles. Not because I was running. Because I was finished. New city, new job, simple life. I rented a small place with big windows. Every morning, sunlight filled the room. No shadows, no noise. Sometimes memories still came. The stadium, the lights, the empty seat. But they didn't hurt the same way. Pain changes when it is understood. One afternoon, a letter arrived. Government stamp. Veronica had written one last statement for the court. It was included for me. She didn't ask for forgiveness, the note said. She asked for acknowledgement. I read her words slowly. She admitted everything, the deal, the choice, the lie. She ended with one sentence. I abandoned my child and she became stronger than me. I folded the paper and placed it in a drawer. Not as a memory, as proof. If you're still listening, subscribe, because this ending isn't loud, it's real, and it's the kind of ending that stays with you. Months passed. I started volunteering at a center for kids in foster care. I didn't tell them my story, I just listened. One little girl once asked me, "Do parents come back?" I knelt beside her. "Sometimes," I said honestly. "But sometimes you grow strong enough that you don't need them to." She smiled. That smile healed something in me. One evening while walking home, I passed a stadium. Different city. Different game. Crowds cheering, lights glowing. I stopped. For a moment my chest tightened. Then I kept walking. Because that chapter was closed. Years later, I heard Veronica had been released early. No money, no friends, no power, just time. I didn't look her up. I didn't need to. Revenge wasn't destroying her. Revenge was surviving her. One night I sat by my window, watching the city sleep. I realized something important. The 8-year-old girl didn't wait forever. She grew up. She learned. She chose herself. And that was the ending she deserved. Not applause, not forgiveness, peace, real peace. I turned off the light and went to bed. No stadium, no empty seat, just silence. And for the first time in my life, his silence felt safe.